My favorite's TSLL. There's also TSLT. Um, I say buy those shares because they kind of handle the options for you. They roll them for the contracts for you. If if the target doesn't hit on time, you won't lose all your money like you can in options. And that's basically what I would say with that. And for as
Thank
far as
you, Tracker.
sure, let me just say for the year, the pattern that I see is this February. I think maybe the second week in February, we'll start to see Bitcoin's going to start moving up higher. Tesla likes to move with Bitcoin. So I think we're going to see a strong momentum up in February and into March, a peak in March. Maybe by March it'll just exceed the previous all-time high now of the that 488, or maybe just fall, or just, it's either be just above it or miss it just below it, and then we'll see a lull again in May. But then it's going to like a valley in May, and then it runs back up again into June and July. Peaks in July, hopefully hits my 711 target, drops again all the way through October. The end of October will be like the worst part of it. That's another chance to you could sell some in July, or hedge your bets and buy some puts in July to stave off the losses that you're seeing in your shares. Then October 31st is another buying opportunity, and then we see new all-time highs at the end of 2025 going into 2026. And maybe I can't be sure about this yet. I want to see them hit the first target in July, but maybe we see 1,000 by the end of 2025, or January 2026. I know. I got the same face. All right. Hey, Pejjy, did you release the video isn't out yet, is it? I've been occupied today. Okay, no, no. Take your time, take your time. It makes really we made really good use of those S curves from oh, why do I keep missing he sounds like that singer's name. Dave with the S curve. Dave Lee, like David Lee Roth. Yeah, Dave Lee. Yeah, rock and roll. Oh, I know. No worries. That was a great screenshot you took, or like you just like took a picture of their camera of the screen. Like, oh yeah, that why I kind of did the S curve thing on the chart on my friend the Great Gatsby's Gann chart. The numbers do get nutty. Part of it is that uh, the inflation of the dollar really is it. You know, I, I won't take too much time. I let you get back with the main show, but they claim, like, say, the Fed is trying to target inflation rate, annualized inflation of 2% a year. What they really get is like, you know, 3% as they measure it with from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. What they don't tell you is that the actual rate of inflation for the US dollar in the United States is more like 10%. They're just kind of lying to you. It's 10% a year, and sometimes it gets worse. So sometimes the reason why some of these numbers get nutty, like Bitcoin going to 1 million, is because of the dollar weakening as we go into the future. Right, that's correct. Yeah, and and then just put it in perspective. I mean, you know, I'm saying like real inflation is like 10% in the United States, but even like anywhere between 4 and 10% inflation with the U.S. dollar, that's still fantastic compared to almost every other currency in the world. You go to some places like Venezuela where they had currency collapse and they had like 1,000% inflation. The U.S. dollar is still the strongest in the world, but that aside, it's kind of a treadmill. You can't just save money in a savings account and expect it to be worth anything over time. That's how the U.S. economy, kind of gets us to keep being, to keep going back to the grindstone by eroding the worth of the dollar. So we have to keep working. Anyway, that's all I want to say about that. But no, you're right. Age of abundance is ahead of us. I mean, once you've got energy from the sun is free, and you can just keep turning energy into raw materials. Elon said like the cost of the raw materials for a Optimus robot might be like $8 or $10 worth. So if the energy is free and you can get the labor to, if the robot labor is doing all the mining, then eventually, in the future, robots are about worth about $8. Eh, in labor, because everything else is free, right? It's just I mean, I guess even that's free too, because now you get the labor pulling it out of the ground. But it becomes, exactly, it just becomes like a big video game, and the robots can go out there and they can do all the cultivating in the fields and grow our food for us, and and as well as take care of our needs, and yeah, hopefully we'll just humans will just become like these amazing creative beings where we're constantly interacting with each other, but on a more creative level, not so much as we're competing with one another for scarce resources.
Hello, good afternoon. So I was listening. It's always very interesting. And I don't know, I was thinking about this morning actually. I was like, I don't know if it was smart for us to take the dollar off the gold standard because I just like guys, the dollar's just an agreement right now. Like it's a polite agreement. It's paper with ink on it, And so I just think it made it a little more volatile and contributed to inflation clearly because the government can just like make up money. It would be great, it will be great someday when the robots make everything, but I think we got some time before then. I mean, I think there might be a decade. Go for it, Tesla Tracker. Let's talk about it. How do you feel about the dollar not being on the gold standard?
So they had to do it because when you have your currency linked to a physical thing that you have to mine on the ground, I mean, it was great. The way Bitcoin is great because there's limited resource.
Yeah, but Bitcoin's
However,
the same thing.
right,
And look at Venezuela now, did they switch to Bitcoin? Who switched to Bitcoin?
they definitely
El
embraced it.
Salvador.
Yeah,
Yeah.
El Salvador. Um, but yeah, they had to switch away from the gold standard because they literally, the economies were growing so quickly after the Bretton Woods Agreement, and we started doing all this free trade over the oceans. Um, that they couldn't move the money fast enough for how quickly the economies were growing. So that's why they uncoupled the dollar from the gold, because for a little while towards the end there, just before Nixon, nixed the gold standard, he other companies countries around the world were just saying, you know what, let's just bring in all the gold. They would call in all the um, a dollar's worth of gold, a dollar's worth of gold, or whatever. So they would call it in and say, okay, ship us the gold, and they were just like emptying the coffers of the United States of gold all over the world. And then the United States realized, well, we don't need to do this anymore. And by being able to expand your money supply, then you can react to an expanding productivity in these large global economies. So that's why they decoupled and went to a fiat currency.
I mean, it is
They had
true,
to
but it
because
sets us up a little bit for stagflation, though, I think. Like I'm a little concerned about the interest rates. And it's funny that people are like, oh, well, the interest, once they cut the interest rates, like homes will be more affordable. And I'm like, the prime rate, I understand they correlate often, the prime rate and mortgage rates, but they're not linked, you know? Like I understand they can correlate, but you can cut rates and then the mortgage rates don't go down. They could even go up, you know, like lending's pretty tight. I don't know. I was just thinking about money today and I was thinking about like the Weimar Republic and
yeah,
Venezuela and I was like, let's not mess up, you know?
yeah, that's why the Fed has been became an institution. They had that task to try to keep it from getting out of control. And I guess they've done a good job. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I wish there was never a Federal Reserve Banking Committee, and then other times like, well, we got this far, so maybe I shouldn't be so harsh on them. Ooh, I see some more hands up, but I'm not the moderator.
Hello, Skeleton.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I was gonna say when it comes to inflation, um, it's not accurate, but to give you a general sense over time, honestly, S&P 500 is probably, but it's kind of what I look at because it's the overall asset inflation of the market, and it doesn't give you like crazy returns, but over time it kind of does correlate much better than the real reads you get from like the Fed. And you have to remember the Fed's main job is actually just to keep everyone calm. It's to prevent like panic in the system. Like they'll lie to you about the numbers. They'll make up whatever they need to, um, and it's not really like they have a handle on things all the time. But they have to make you believe it, and then because you believe it, there is no panic, and you don't get the crazy hyperinflation, other scenarios, and they're always late, right? They're late. They're always lagging, and they're always lying.
I love that late lagging and lying. My friend Skeletor, everyone. I guess to get this back onto Tesla track, let me just say that I think that the 10-year bond yields are going to start falling again, which usually correlates really well for Tesla stock because when you look at them as a car company, then people say, oh, well, no, I mean, let's just say 10-year notes because then nobody wants to just keep their money in bonds and all the money will return to the market. That's what I want to say.
What do you think's going to happen with the effect of the Japanese bond yield? Didn't that just flip? Do you think that's going to affect our bond yield? I don't know. Japan's kind of a big economy to like ignore.
They are one of the larger world economies, but ours is still bigger. I don't know.
It is.
That's not my wheelhouse.
When I was in university, it was the third largest economy in the world. So that was the early 2000s. So that's huge. I mean, in California is the seventh. I think people don't realize. I don't think Americans realize that just California is number seven. So, and I'm not sure how accurate those numbers are today. I'd have to look at them again, but these are enormous economies. And for Japan to have issues, I don't know. And then I am a little concerned with the car side, with the tariffs for Canada, only because it's like a double-edged sword. I mean, it'll hit us two times with Tesla. I mean, I think energy and everything's gonna be great. In the long run, Tesla's absolutely gonna do gangbusters. But this year, if President Trump, I think the tariffs went into effect today, right? So 25% tariff on goods coming from Mexico and Canada to the US or goods coming. I think even did he do China too? I'm not sure, but I know that we get a lot of our
10% for
lithium.
China.
Okay, so a lot of the lithium, the refined lithium comes from China for Tesla, or some of the battery packs. Like one of my friends was like, "Oh, I forgot that my Model 3 has a battery pack from China," so that's gonna, cause a little bit of an issue. But I saw, and I don't know if this is true, but Canada's talking about doing 100% tariff against cars, which India already does, right? So there's already precedent for it. I mean, and they're a sovereign nation, they can do whatever the hell they want. But I'm wondering how much of our car sales for Tesla are from Canada and how much will that affect us? That's not true. Canada can absolutely, they can absolutely do 100% tariffs on cars. So that's not accurate. I'm sorry. It shouldn't. Do you think the Canadian government cares? They just want to win this trade war. Like that's, that's why they mentioned it. But
Well, and
Pejjy, how
Hey,
delivery are gonna be gone? How do Canadian get rid of them? How do you guys get rid of them?
hey, hey,
hey, if you guys,
Pejjy,
I'm sorry,
you
if you
can.
want a really good take on tariffs and trade law, call on my friend David Argallo there. He's a listener. He had his hand up a second ago. He actually works at import export.
Oh, you mean?
Hi, guys. No, just chiming in because I really felt what Pejjy said. I've got siblings who live in Canada. I used to live in Canada. I go back there every year, and it's distinct how different it's changed since I went. I lived there maybe 15 years ago to now, and Trudeau is the worst prime minister that country's had in probably their history. He's that bad. He's the most incompetent. But I would say this: Trump isn't just vendettering Canada. This White House isn't just Trump. It's the team he's assembled around him, and he understands now how stifled he was in his first term. He was ran through hoops in his first term. He didn't understand the lay of the land. He didn't have anybody in office. Now he has got the best of American entrepreneurs behind him, like the fact that people like Bill Ackman and Peter Thiel and Mark Anderson are just in the background advising. They're not even the top upfront guys. You take any of those guys from an economic standpoint to be involved in your government. And some people get defensive about that. And, I consider myself quite a socially liberal person, and I was definitely much more left-leaning a while back, but not so much now. But I was debating with a friend the other day who was like, all these billionaires and millionaires and all this stuff. And I said, do you know how many millionaires left the UK last year? And they said, how many? I said, 10,500. That was 150% increase. I said, would you rather live in a country with millionaires in it or no millionaires in it? Now, we all know what a country with no millionaires in it looks like. It's very bad. I've been to several of them, or minimum millionaires, let's
Bohemian,
say.
are you from England?
I'm from the UK, yeah. I'm from
UK?
Scotland. Yeah,
Scotland.
Scotland. Yeah. But I just want to say,
Is
like,
it true that they censor over there? The censorship is
yes,
crazy.
yeah, it's awful. We have a socialist Labour leader, Keir Starmer, who has been covering up some absolutely scandalous crimes in the UK and allowing things to death spiral because he's gotten into bed with a bunch of very influential minority leadership groups, let's call them, and he is unable to stand up and say the hard thing because he's kind of complicit, because it relates back to the time that he was one of the top, I think the top judge in the UK, and he oversaw a lot of investigations that he chose not to take action on, and it's all becoming public now. So Starmer is he got elected on the basis that the Conservative Party was so bad that all he had to do to win the election was say nothing, promise nothing, do nothing, and wait for the election to come round, because nobody was voting for the Conservatives, and we're pretty much a two-party country, even though we do have other parties. Island even, and he will probably not last a year, thank God. My deep concern in the UK is we don't have an entrepreneurial minded, forward thinking person to come in his wake, but that's, I guess, another conversation. But I think with Trump, it's, it looks like he's, a little bit get back on Trudeau, the way he mocked him. Completely agree with Pejjy on that. But I think what he's doing is actually, and it's his team who are doing it too, is very smart, is that he's using Canada, who've got no leverage here. They're never going to be able to do any of these things. They've got no leverage. The economy is collapsing. My brother spends twice as much this year on grocery shopping than he did 18 months ago, literally. And they haven't really got any leverage, but they can say all these things and they'll come back with this, that, and the other. But this is an export country, and without their exports, they're dead. So they're going to make a deal. But I think, and that's what Trump wants to do. He wants to send a message to the rest of the woke European leadership, that what's left of them. Macron's on his way out, Scholz will surely be on his way out. But he wants to send a message, and the easiest way to get that message across is through Trudeau, because he's identified him as the weakest, the most easily overcome, and the most woke of the bunch of them. I mean, absolute horror show of a leader, and a very checkered guy, to be honest. And I think he'll use that to negotiate a deal that he's happy with and send a message to everybody else about the tariffs and stuff. And also the immigration aspect. He wants to secure the border from the border first, right? So a lot of migrants come through Canada too, nowhere near as much as Mexico, obviously. But Trump is trying to set a precedent there too. He's trying to say, and his agenda and his mandate, and he's emboldened, and he's going to do it. Economically, I think this year is going to be such a turmoil year for Tesla, massively. I think next 2 quarters will disappoint. We all know where it's going, and this is a culmination year. Everything comes together, and next year and the year after is going to be insane. But this year will be tough. If somebody said to me right now, "You'll match car sales from last year," I'd probably take it. The factory's going to be shut for weeks. Elon's going to come under a ton of attacks as they implement the Doge savings. There's going to be a few road bumps along the way as they launch new models. Car sales are going to be impacted by a lot of the short-term, geopolitical stuff that goes on. Fine, it will impact everybody else. Tesla will come out better than any other car company in terms of competition. They're just better, smarter, and we know all that. But economically, I think Trump's taken the Millet approach, which is essentially like Milton Friedman's like Capitalism and Freedom. And there's an Austrian economist, I forget his name, that I read, but Millet's literally taken these economist textbooks. He's a pure economist. And Trump's people around him are very big on this aspect as well. To do that, there has to be short-term impact. There has to be. Inflation has to spike again. people need to get a little panic when things go up. Trump said they wouldn't. But as you got spending and increased productivity, that very quickly turns into a sonic boom moment. So I think a little scary for the next 6 months for everything related to Tesla. And wouldn't be surprised if the stock fluctuates a lot. We'll all buy if it goes low enough, I'm sure, whatever our number is. But I think he just has to do all these things, Trump. It looks like madness, it looks like chaos, but if you think about it, that's the one thing that I think really connects Elon and Trump. And I'll just end on this point. I don't want to ramble on. Is that Elon grew up in chaos. South Africa, very violent place. His dad, very, very tough guy. And he exists in it and he's all signal. But he grew up in complete noise. But he's all signal. And I think Trump exists well in chaos. He's a chaotic guy. He's frenetic. He likes to have a million things happening at once. He probably doesn't spend more than 12 minutes of his day not speaking. He needs to hear every voice in the room. Both of them have egotistical leanings, but that's understandable because they're both highly successful people. So I love Elon. I don't know him, but I love what he's doing. But I think that thing will push them through this really tough turmoil 6 months that we're about to see. But it's not like the last time Trump was in power. It was turmoil because he had this combative nature with everyone, couldn't figure things out, couldn't get things done. Chuck Schumer and all these other people ran rings around him, Pelosi, all those lunatics. And it just kicked the can down the road sort of presidency in that sense. But this time he knows all of that, and he's got the people around him who definitely know all of that, and he's gutted the people that didn't work well from last time. So I think that will keep them together, and Elon will take care of his side, other people in the government will take care of their sides, and Trump will just stay on his thing. He's emboldened, he's got the mandate, and it will be tough. I think the next 6 months will be pretty crazy, but I think by the end of the year, if the stock price is sitting in what it's sitting at now for Tesla, if the car sales match what they had last year for Tesla, and everything that we know is coming is another 9 months down the line with no hiccups in regulations, no hiccups in terms of like the robotaxi drives off a cliff or anything terrible like that. It won't. It's already 10 times, 50 times safer. We know that it'll be 100 times safer by the end of the year. If all of those things happen with energy going where energy is going, and then a third factory getting built, then the cheaper model, I would take that. I would be delighted. I would be like, oh my God. I always thought 26, 27,
Well,
28 were.
Bohemian, you about to say, "Oh my God," every day.
Yeah. Next year
You're about to. You're
we
about
won't
to
have to
like,
worry.
"Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God."
The margins and everything will just crawl, like just up next year. But I would take it. 1.8 million car sales at the end of the year, fully ramped 2 mega factories, semis for ramping out fully, Cybertruck selling well, going to more regions, right? Cars expanding to more regions, FSD take rate creeping up 5, 10%, 15%, 20%. I would take it right now. I mean, that would be a glory
That
machine.
is what Elon good at. That is what he good at. I'm upset. I'm like all my money with this guy, so I have to listen to him talking every day. And you dead on. He's signal. He's no noise. This guy talk real shit. And going back to just the earning call, oh, I was like, listen a little bit, pause, because it's a lot to go under between the line. And it will be longer. The 2025 is a changing history year in Tesla. 2026 will be epic. 2027 and 2078 will be ridiculously good. That's his word. And I'm like, holy shit. Elon never been in this good mood. And some year he even like it's just too money is just too expensive to borrow, and people need to borrow money to buy car. So I don't know. Sometimes he just basically tell you it's not gonna be this good this year. Oh,
that
but
makes me feel very good when he does that because
changing the history, and
yeah.
he not holding back this time with the FSD. It's like wolf, self-driving wolf.
So well said. You made a really good point there. Elon said that about a year and a bit ago. He said it's going to be tough. Well, it was last year at the start of the year. He said be tough this year, but I think by this period, if things calm down a little bit, it'll start to pick up. And I love that because it's forward thinking and it's honest. And it's like that's what you want. You know, most people the next two Q2 and Q3 earnings, or Q1 and Q2 essentially, we could see margins drop again. We could see sales stagnate again. I'd be shocked if they didn't with this ramp, to be honest. But the other half of the story, pardon? Yeah, but the second half of that story, Pejjy, is we know why that's happening, right? We all know why that's happening. And the sales are going to go kaboom when that new Model Y and the cheaper model hits, right? Take a few months, but they will. But we know also that that second half of the story is going to be so much further down the road. It's going to be normalized. The AI part of the story is going to be normalized in the minds of people, and it's going to get so close. But there's a famous line by a poet that I love that says, "There's nothing worse than being too late." And a lot of Wall Street are too late already, I feel. You can still make a lot of money in Tesla, obviously, but when the time they actually creep along and get their thesis going, oh, it's actually, oh, we see it. All of us will be sat there going, yeah, we'll be sat on this for a few years. And it's, you know, where have you been?
If you listen to the analyst questions, I'm sorry. If you listen to the analyst questions that were asked on the call,
Oh,
I don't actually, I heard mostly about it was them all trying to get their heads around the AI claims. I really felt from the call that Wall Street was kind of putting the car sales on the back burner and saying, okay, we got to pay attention to this now because we've already kind of seen the build out from NVIDIA. You know, we're seeing these Chinese AI systems and everything, and people are, we all call Wall Street stupid, but they're not that stupid. And you have to remember, even the whole narrative that they're stupid was actually very useful for them to shake everyone out. Like all the impatient people selling off their shares, like they've been accumulating for the last couple of years plus. And for us all to believe, oh, it's never going to happen. That flip from software, robotics, and AI from cars is not going to happen soon enough for my liking. That actually gets a lot of people out of the stock, and they were using that narrative to accumulate.
yeah, they manipulate. You're right, and also they're data driven, right? So we can't go too nuts on them. It's like they're not, having vision, understanding, but they have to be able to measure it in their spreadsheets on the bottom line, and that's okay because fundamentally they have to be able to do their own models, and those models have to be justified and rooted in actual tangible things because otherwise it gets a little too abstract. And if one goes, oh yeah, but it's so obvious with Tesla, and the Tesla community actually can get quite frustrated by that and go after Gary Blacks and Gene Munsters and stuff. But it's like, well, hang on a minute. Like if you had that for every company though, you're in, Amit says there's a lot like you are when you invest, you are investing in potential, but you can't always measure potential, and also they're good at that. I mean, once just look at the institutional take rate of certain companies, and then look at the Wall Street narrative shift and change at certain points, and also look at price targets. You can kind of see what's going on just through a pattern. So that sort of stock manipulation aspect is very interesting. And I don't know if anybody ever saw that Jim Cramer interview he gave back in the day in the 90s about the stock market before the internet, before the apps, before all that stuff. And he was talking about how he can make phone calls on Wall Street and influence, like, not crash the market per se, but like play a sort of game here, deception game, and pick up calls and puts. And he was literally on video telling this guy something like this. And it's buried on YouTube somewhere. And I actually found it one day. And I was like, how is this guy still allowed to be on TV? And then I thought, oh yeah, we've got Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi in government making hundreds of millions of dollars. This is nothing. But like, so yeah, Wall Street are savvy and smart. And also, they're making their money. A lot of these investors on, hedge fund investors on margin, right, on 2-3% that they pick up from their hedge funds, regardless of whether or not they stick them. They're still going to pick up their percentage. It'll be more or less depending on how successful they are, but that's the other game that they're doing too, right? And we've seen a lot of them go down in the last 6 months, actually. which is quite refreshing. With the retail investor rising, I think this becomes a lot more of an honest game, because I found the smartest people, and I actually posted about this on my Twitter. I've learned more in investing in 2 years of just listening, following, and reading smart people advice that I find on the internet. The Farsads, the Amirs, Pejjy, I very much follow you on Tesla. A bunch of you guys I follow Tesla Tracker, thank you. But listening to what and then I have in my entire life, adult life, and it's like if you really actually,
Ben study stock, Ben study Tesla, Ben study just a business part of it. Study everything for 4-5 years. I think I learned more than I go to college.
yeah,
we
absolutely.
we see hand up a minute ago. We see Jen. Jen, what up?
Hey, so I actually had a question about AI and Tesla, to tell you the truth. And I may have missed it because I was listening to the earnings call with earbuds in at a restaurant, but I did not hear an update for Dojo. And so I'm wondering what's going on with Dojo. And I feel like part of the reason we haven't got an update for Dojo is like, what is XAI doing as far as AI for Tesla? What is Tesla doing for AI as far as Tesla? Because I'm a little confused. XAI, are they doing Grok? Is X doing Grok? Is XAI doing the AI for Tesla? Is Tesla doing the AI? I mean, Tesla's definitely doing FSD. That's not a question, you know. But for the robot, you know, how are we training it on language and everything? Are we using X, you know? And I think that partnerships with other companies are fantastic. And the Musk companies, like the suite of companies, they are so complementary to each other and they can work well together. But I think for Tesla shareholders, since Tesla is the only publicly traded company of all the Musk companies, I think it would be really nice to get some like very clear language and guidance and understanding as to what Tesla is doing and what we are hiring out to other Musk companies to be able to value it better. Because why would we be valuing an AI model that actually XAI is doing and Tesla's not going to be getting revenue? They're like licensing it or something, you know? So I don't know if anybody has any information on that, but those were some of my questions, I guess.
Pejjy, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, but when though? But when did we hear that? Not this pat. Did they say anything this call? Because that's kind of surprising. It's one of their major products. Because they're not going to make it. Pejjy. Yeah, it's unfortunate. No, because there's stupid questions from Say, firstly. And then second, like we need to get rid of those. And everybody, like LiDAR, the word LiDAR should be like excluded from our meetings from now on. Like I don't want to hear LiDAR. I don't give a fuck about LiDAR. Sorry, shouldn't even swear. But no, I agree. But you know, we had an AI day. Do you guys remember the AI day? We had a whole fucking day about it. Where did that go? You know, like, and Elon, the last time.
Again. I think
Well,
they will be
yes.
again.
No, there
It's
will,
a
but I mean,
recruiter company. It's a
sure, but what
recruiter
happened?
event, right?
Yeah, no, they're going to have iterations of it, of course. I'm just wondering, like, well, what does the AI part of Tesla look like currently, and what is our trajectory? You know, and I don't think we've gotten an update because the last time I heard Elon say anything about the Dojo chip, it was like, well, we're having some problems with the Dojo chip, but we're going to get there, you know? And so I don't know. I was just curious if anybody has that, because I think like there are definitely people out there that know the car side, like, I mean, maybe as good as Elon it's in some points, you know? And then there's some people that know the energy side really, really well. Like, I feel like we get a lot of great information on both of those, but like, man, AI, like, could you could any of us even put our finger on exactly what Tesla's doing, exactly what XAI is doing, exactly what X is doing, and who's getting the revenue? Because I can't. As a shareholder, that's a problem.
That is the AI story right now, though. We all got what we did.
Oh.
You know. So
Okay, so I'm not a software engineer or I don't make these things obviously or have work in the field, but years ago I did invest in NVIDIA on the basis that I thought they would be training like future AIs. This was all before ChatGPT, and Tesla's strength comes from a couple of things. It comes from the data. It comes from the data firstly. The second thing is the engineers. The engineers are pretty useless without the data. The actual hardware, like Dojo, that was a data center solution to something that NVIDIA can do for the entire industry. Dojo is a very specific chip to Tesla's needs, whereas NVIDIA their chips are a generalized solution. So like,
wait, Skeletor, I have a question before you go on. Is XAI purchasing Dojo chips from Tesla? Is that what they installed in Nashville?
Okay, I don't know the answer, but I don't believe so. It doesn't make sense because the Dojo chips are made to service Tesla's training specifically. And the problem is like all these big tech companies are trying to compete with NVIDIA while buying their NVIDIA chips. The issue is that these chips that these companies like Amazon, Meta, Google, and Tesla are making, they can't be used for other applications so easily. Like they don't have the software libraries, they don't have it set up. NVIDIA, on the other hand, it's pretty interchangeable. So like the focus on the Dojo chip at this point is actually quite irrelevant because it's more about just getting that allocation of NVIDIA chips. And these Dojo chips, they're probably pretty good, but once again, I don't have a way to calculate it. It's really the data and just their ability to scale up these models, like the tree models, like how many units they can actually put towards training, right? So like obviously even with exit. So I was going to go back to engineers. The engineers are important because these are Elon's people making those breakthroughs, going from with XAI 50 to 100,000 H100s or whatever they're using at the XAI data center. And the point I say engineers is because guess what? They move around between companies. And if they figure something out at one company, it supports his public company. So this is why I wouldn't be very fixated on Dojo. At this point, it's almost like a moot point. It's like, why are we talking about this thing anymore when we already have this generalized solution that, as much as it's expensive, it's just better off to pay NVIDIA and stay in the good books of Jensen, right?
Yeah.
So then before I do want to hear from Bohemian, but before we go on, my question then is like, what is the AI that we're valuing? FSD for sure. Yes. What is training? I know that like Optimus, they have people that are training it. They're like wearing suits, and everything and walking around. So they're making a data set as well. But in my mind, part of the very smart purchase of Twitter and very expensive purchase of Twitter was the data set, because at some point we're going to want Optimus to like speak to us and for us to be speak back to it. And I'm just wondering like how that relationship is working. Is there a relationship? Is there going to be a relationship along those lines from the companies? Like what is the data set for the robot for conversation and stuff? But go ahead, Bohemian, because I cut you off.
The Tesla
No, I
tracker
just
here.
want to say that.
I want to say one
go
quick thing. Don't forget that we also have, his brain computer interface, human brain computer interface, and that's going to be able to train, the Optimus so much more quickly and so much more efficiently once they get that all set up.
Oh, certainly, but that's Neuralink. Like, I don't have shares in Neuralink. So what does that relationship look like? Like, that's what I'm saying is like, what's the plan,
It's
for the data set?
part of Elon's master plan. They all work together.
Right, but
Couldn't
how do
agree
I
more. The next
value it in the
master
top?
plan.
How do I
The next,
value it in Tesla's stock price? I guess is what I'm saying. Like,
I
I
think,
understand they're all going to work
yeah,
together and it's fantastic, but like, how do I value what one of the other companies is doing in the Tesla share price? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to know Tesla's piece, and I feel like I can't find that easily.
yeah. I would love to know too how they connect the dots, but I would say for me, that's 2 or 3 steps down the road. Like I think with the humanoid robot, they're so fixated on the hand, which is absolutely the right place to be fixated on. Because if you want a functional product that can do practical things, then the hand has more parts in it than pretty much other part of the human body, and then you sort it out. So like when you think about it in stages, I think Elon, obviously we know his vision is there. He'll know exactly what's going on. I'm super curious after what you said about that, though, about the relationship between the products and things, but there's no way that Elon doesn't know how to integrate there. I think of Dojo as part of the vertical integration process that Tesla have been so fucking amazing at. The way that they opened the lithium refining factory, which is they've broken ground, by the way. So, there's just so many moving parts that interconnect. Like, okay, we might not increase sales this year, but we will lower COGS. And lithium, they were refining lithium. The lithium prices are collapsing. Elon's found a way to create cheaper and cheaper lithium. Dojo
I
will
like you
function as like,
mentioned lithium. I love you mentioned lithium, and
it's
I
huge.
just wanted
It's
to
huge.
mention
It's
this.
such a,
Well, it
yeah.
is,
And the
but
thing,
I don't know if you guys realize this, but the reason why people say LFP batteries are only like 96%, 97% recyclable is because the way we recycle LFP batteries today, we don't recapture the refined lithium. That's why it's the limiting factor, because you can
yeah,
recycle battery. I mean, it's also a limiting factor because we're making new batteries, and people are like, oh, well, batteries die and then they'll get recycled. But like, how many people's batteries have gone to recycling places yet? Like, it takes a long time for these batteries to die. So there's just and so anyway, so there is a company that actually has the patent. They just solved for it. I want to say it was last year or the year before, but it's a super tiny company. It's called Comstock Mining. They have a patent that they've proven that they can recapture the refined lithium in battery recycling. And they flipped their whole company from gold and silver mining to battery recycling and biodiesels. So I just wanted to mention that in case anybody who's working at Tesla thinks that might be a good patent for Tesla to have. And they also have the battery recycling facility already up and running. But I thought it was very interesting that that was a big problem with battery recycling, is the refined lithium, and we actually can recapture it. But I think people just don't know about these tiny little companies sometimes. I felt like that was a very impactful patent that got filed. So I just want to mention it since you said lithium.
yeah. I think lithium prices are just going to completely collapse over the next 5 years, and it will be
Raw
a
lithium, but not refined. There's a huge difference between raw lithium and refined lithium.
Yeah, for sure. But I know nothing about the refined end. But I do know that Tesla broke ground. Elon was even saying in the early day in the earnings call that a limiting factor might be batteries and stuff. He didn't mention it again. That for me was fucking bullish. It was like, yeah, in the future we're going to need a lot of batteries. And it's like good because you're going to be selling a lot of stuff. But for me with the AI play, it's like the proprietary data all day long. They have the data. They have the proprietary data, and lidar are out there scanning the earth, trying to grab hold as much of it as possible, and getting people to jam code in there. It's not the same game. They've got the proprietary
LiDAR
data.
is so dumb. It's so dumb
It's
because we
just
change
stupid.
the roads. Like, shit changes. You can't just like
I
make
couldn't
super
believe the
detailed maps and
question
think like
came up.
nothing will change.
I couldn't believe the question came up in earnings. Like, how did that question even exist in earnings? Something to do with lidar, and I was like, Jesus Christ! And they're still like, look at the robotaxi.
Well, because they have the business now. Because they have the business now. They're just going to take the money they can now. Listen, how many robotaxis are we going to make this year? None.
They make no money. Yeah, they're already a zombie. There's Pejjy, they're a startup who's a zombie company already. Like I think this is insane. I think they should just look at Tesla and quit like everybody else did. I mean, it's there's two models here, and one of them is extremely advanced compared to the other one. And it happened seemingly overnight because, nobody really thought about what was going on with the cameras beforehand, but Elon did. And then he releases that video of him in Silicon Valley driving to Steve Jobs' house, whistling, listening to opera. And then you find out that he's in the car with I can't pronounce the guy's name, but he's the head AI guy, Ashwan.
Also,
That's right. And he's in the car with him and stuff, and he's literally laughing to himself, chuckling because it's the moment, right? And then you guys go to work, or the Tesla geniuses in the community go to work, and they're like, "Yeah, we're running this through AI, and it's all video. We're not doing the lidar thing. There's no code here. There's no code," was the words. And then he talked to Lex Friedman about it, and I would listen to that, and I was like, "Oh." And at that point, they should have stopped. At that point, they should have stopped because they'd figured that out.
Well, I can tell you why I think that LiDAR is doing okay right now. I mean, I understand they're not making any money. However, like you can take an existing OEM car and you can add LiDAR to it, and you really can't do that with Tesla FSD because you need not only the data set, and not only the software, you need the hardware too. We already know the hardware 3 cars are going to have to be upgraded with Tesla's new chips, for one. For 2, you need the entire camera suite, which then affects like the body, the wiring, the this, the that, and the other. Now, do I think that other car makers will eventually license FSD? Sure, but I think it's almost going to be like, I don't know. I mean, Tesla may have to take over their manufacturing, and then maybe those brands just become brands, where like, for example, how we manufacture food, right? So you have like the store brand, and then you have the premium brand, whatever it is, and it's all made in the same factory. Like I could see that happening, but this is going to take like a really long time. And I understand it's great to have like a very long time horizon, but I also like to ask myself, well, what does the next 1 year look like? 2 years, 5 years, And the honest truth is Waymo is driving people around right now, and Cybercab is not, So I mean, I get it. And I think Waymo is a piece of crap, but there's a lot of support out there for the old guard, and that's who's throwing their money at it. I mean, why is Ford and GM still in business? Well, because the government bailed them out, So because remember the auto bailouts? Do you guys remember those? Like they should have already died.
GM's been bailed out twice.
Right. So they should have already been dead. So, to say like, oh, well, Waymo is a stupid company, like, oh, I agree. That's why I don't have any investment. I don't use them because I think it's stupid. But I would not discount them being around because you're never going to have one single player in a market. Like
No.
maybe Tesla someday in 20 years, they're like the largest company on Earth and Mars, because we'll be on Mars by then. And like I could see it in 20 years. Do I see it in 5 years where like they've eliminated all of their competition and they're just like, and they have like unlimited supply of everything? And no, I think it's going to take a little longer. Yeah.
But I don't think they're stupid either. I just don't think they're stupid. I don't think Waymo is stupid. I think what happened was an announcement was just made, but they're still doing good work. But they will have to find a way to be profitable. I'm very nervous about the full self-driving. Not nervous, but I'm very cautious about it being adopted in mass scale by any other OEMs because, I mean, Ford's what 75% of Ford's manufacturing is in the hands of multiple other businesses that there's all
Yeah, they assemble. They're an assembler.
Yeah.
They don't actually make anything. They just assemble a bunch of other parts. It's a very good point.
That's a nightmare. So like for me, outside of Tesla literally saying to the big manufacturers, this is where you need to have your cameras in the car. Get your cameras in the car like this. You can license FSD.
No, they will need Tesla's cameras. Like they're going to need Tesla's everything, like that whole suite, and it's going to be expensive.
But that's the only. I mean, they'd have to. And do you know what? Elon was honest about it. He said, "I'm not even interested if it's not a huge." They're going to have to either completely change their manufacturing process, or Tesla are going to have to start selling. They're going to become like the auto shop. They're going to be the petrol station, the energy station, the auto shop, where you go and get your extra parts, and the licensor of FSD at this point. But like, yeah, the supply. I just don't think they want to do all of that. I don't think Elon's bothered about all of that. So I don't really know if licensing FSD is going to be a thing. And I do agree with you in the sense that I think there will be another alternative option there that people will go with. But that alternative option is going to last about as long as the what they call the hybrids. Hybrids is just such a ridiculous idea, you know, for me personally. It's like I
The
get
know
it.
what
new
I think?
Tesla that come out. I'm sorry, I have this thing in my head. The new Tesla that come out, all of them gonna have full self driving. Every car gonna just have a robot. You guys don't.
Yeah.
This is Elon thinking. You guys don't even have to fight me about transfer your license anymore. I gonna put it all in the car. If you see
Yeah.
Tesla, it is a robot.
Yeah.
I
Once
see
they
this
don't have to,
coming.
yeah. Once the R&D on getting FSD solved is gone, and it becomes a maintenance cost as opposed to the R&D that they've put into it, and they have put a
It's
lot of fucking
done.
R&D.
It's done. Trust me,
Once
it's
it's
done.
done,
It's done.
yeah, it's done. But like now, the cost of buying FSD is going to come down rapidly. The cost of subscribing to it. It might even get to the point that they just incorporate the price of FSD into the car, what they think it's worth, bump the price of the car, and say any new car, like you say, and then this will take a couple of years, maybe longer, but like any new car that you buy will have FSD come with it as standard.
I don't think
And
they're
then
giving away a SaaS product. I don't see that at all. Because
no,
this is our Microsoft.
I'm
It's our
talking.
Microsoft Office suite moment. It's our Microsoft
No,
Office suite
yeah,
moment.
but
We don't give that
you have to
away.
go. Yeah, but Jen, I'm talking like years in the future. I'm like, you go. Microsoft came along as a product that you bought once and owned until years later they brought another one up, right? Then it became a
Yeah, but you
subscription.
still had to buy it. It was never free. I don't ever see FSD being free.
Yeah. I never said it was free. I said it would be
You just said it was
incorporated.
being included in the price.
Yeah, but the
How
price
much
would
do you
change.
think people are going to pay for a car?
Yeah,
People who
but
want
the
to run
price
a
would
fleet,
change.
people who want to run a fleet and own a business, sure, they won't care. But like your average person that's like going to work and stuff, that I don't know. I think it's too far in the future.
First step. Second step. One day.
Didn't Elon tell us
will
it was
be
going to
so
be
long.
$100,000 one day? I think Elon was thinking it's going to go the other way.
What's going to be $100,000?
He said that before, that FSD someday will be worth $100,000. And he did say that the price will go up over time. And it has gone up over time as more features are added. Like, I think he sees it as a value add. I don't know.
No,
I think people are,
yeah. I don't think
you
it's going
know,
to $100,000. Jesus, never. Yeah.
yeah, but not at like an unlimited amount. Like there's a limited amount that people will spend because they have a limited amount of money. You know, when you start making a product like super expensive, you're going to have less buyers. I'm just wondering like how, if you really believe that FSD is going to be included in the price of cars, then how are you modeling your
No,
price
I'm not
targets?
saying I fully believe. I'm speculating. I mean, you sound almost offended by me having an opinion there, Jen. It's
No,
quite funny, but
I'm not at
you're
all.
going.
I'm just asking how you are modeling
Yeah,
that then.
I'm not modeling it. I'm just thinking in 10, 20 years time, when this is like just the way it is with cars, where everybody wants the car, where robotaxis are making people a living, where you can get lifetime this and whatever. I'm just thinking of other industries where, like, even in other areas, other business areas, not just cars, where you can go from buying something once to subscription model options to lifetime options. There's price structures, right? I'm just thinking if this is so popularized, if it's making money and generating income, and it's clearly the thing that everybody either has or wants. I'm just saying, is it another phase that it can go to? I could be completely wrong. You know, I don't know. I mean, this is the fun of Tesla. You're going to
I
find
just
out.
want to say, you know, when you buy a computer, you don't just buy the computer and then because it's just a dumb brick, it doesn't do anything without the operating system software. And so every time you buy a computer, you're also paying a licensing fee to Microsoft for its Windows product.
Yeah, tell me about it. I just paid mine. It's annoying. It went up.
There are many other things that Tesla can incorporate as a software as a service to charge for, and I think that FSD will become a safety standard in the future, like a seatbelt, and it would be kind of ridiculous if you had to pay to buckle up.
That's a good point.
That's a very interesting take. I kind of like that. That's interesting.
I mean, they're going to be able to offer Grok as a service, as a paid service. There's plenty of things.
Who owns Grok? Who owns Grok, though? Does
XAI,
Tesla own
right?
Grok?
I don't think
XAI
so.
owns Grok. It doesn't matter in the Tesla share price then. That's like
No,
my
and to
point
your-
about, I mean,
and
I'm
to your
not trying to
point, Jennifer,
argue.
No,
I'm
I
just-
think actually I got on because of what you were talking about earlier. And to your point, I hope that XAI goes public. And I actually really hope that the Boring Company goes public, because at that point, when the public starts pouring money into underground transportation routes, we're going to live in a much more beautiful world.
I love Boring Company so much, and I really want to hear more about them. I want to see more tunnels. They're so much less expensive than how we already do so many things. Like, why? Like, hopefully this administration, you know, because we have infrastructure issues in the United States, y'all. We do. I mean, they're pretty serious. Like, I drove 33,000 miles, okay, in 18 months. I saw a lot of the infrastructure, and I was in the middle of the country too, like not only on the coast. And we need infrastructure, and Boring Company is a great fit for a lot of that. So I hope that Prufung is ready, and I hope that Trump is ready to start building some tunnels, because I think that could be major. I mean, think about it. If you want to relieve traffic, like what happens when you relieve traffic? Like there are some areas in the United States where traffic is so bad, like Atlanta. I go around Atlanta. I will go way out of my way to not drive through Atlanta because the traffic's that bad. So if you think about it, the people that are living in those circumstances, they're spending a lot of time commuting, or like DC, holy shit, you know? And so half their day, I feel like, is freaking commuting. And then so like when they get home, they're tired, they're grumpy. Are they having sex and having babies then? Probably not, you know? And it's like, well, what happens to like so many things when you alleviate traffic?
Exactly. More babies, more families.
Your traffic sounds horrific in some cities in America. LA sounds awful.
LA is bad. And I mean, I've done New York City a lot. Like I'm from Long Island. I'm extremely familiar with New York City. I even drive the RV through it to get home to Long Island. And I'm telling you right now, Atlanta's the worst, in my opinion. I mean, I've done San Francisco, LA, New York, DC, Atlanta, Austin, Dallas. Dallas, if you hit a storm wrong, Dallas can really mess you up too. But yeah, traffic's freaking horrific a lot of the place. And then there's some places where like, guys, our bridges are crumbling. Like a boat, like a little boat hit a bridge and the whole damn bridge fell down. Yes, Fa,
Wow.
sorry, I'm just going on and on.
Can I ask a question? Because to Americans in particular, or North Americans, because you guys drive on average so much longer than a lot of the people, big country and all that. Like in Britain, like I can be at the south of England in 6 or 7 hours from Scotland. Like that's almost top to bottom, right? You probably couldn't get out of the state in that time in some places. So here's a question. We shift towards robotaxis and people start licensing, like letting their cars go out and make them money. I don't know when that'll happen or whatever, but you know, we all think it's going to happen. There's a real love of ownership of a car, right? Particularly in America, I think people really have a real attachment to their cars. Cars are big purchases. There's an emotional attachment to it. There's a relationship with the car. There's something that people really value. And I was thinking about this the other day. I like my car. I call it Betsy. It's a little banger, but it's great. I've had it for a few years. It's kept me safe. It's got me through some dodgy weather. You know, you have that emotional attachment to a car, as we all do, right? And I'm thinking when it shifts to robotaxi, and I'm thinking specifically from the point of you own a car, you drive the car. When you're not using the car, it can be making you money, not the fleet, not the business sort of aspect, mogul aspect of it. Just the person who wants to make an extra $10,000 a year with the car that they own, or 20,000, and it's going to end up potentially paying for itself or giving them that extra bit of cash, which is great. That's a beautiful thing, right? I think that's actually more people than anything, you know, with the car. But you're going to have to start giving your car to other people to make that money, and the car's going to be coming home with smells and mess and all those things. And with society being we've all had it pretty rough globally for the last, say, 4 or 5 years. It started just before COVID, and we've never, and I see these like videos of LiDAR, Waymo cars getting smashed to pieces because there's these massive cameras on top of them and people don't like being filmed, or it goes through like a less safe neighborhood and that happens or whatever. How do you think that the social transition of that is going to go, right? And what sort of social problems will occur?
Let me ask you this, okay? You can rent your house out via Airbnb. Some people do it. Most people do not, because most people don't like to share their stuff, at least in America. So that's one point. The second point, we have many, many cultures in America. Some cultures are very, very car cultures. In Long Island, it is normal to go drag race down Deer Park Avenue, and it's completely illegal. They still do it, and they have beautiful cars. Like when I was living in Long Island last, I was in my early 20s, and I had friends that were in their early 20s, and I shit you not, they were driving like mint 69 what was it, Corvette. One of my friends had a mint 69 Corvette. Another guy had a Trans Am mint. These guys spend so much money on these cars. They don't give a shit about making money on the car. You don't buy a McLaren because you want to like make money on the car. You also don't buy like an Audi because you want to make money on your car. So will there be plenty of people that want to make money on their car? Sure. But they're in a different culture almost, because we have all these like micro cultures in the United States. But I think like Airbnb is not the best model, but it's a good model to look at because you can already rent your stuff out. I do it. I rent my primary Airbnb, and I do keep like a suite for myself because it's still my primary, but it's 4,500 square feet. I broke it into like 2 units, and but most people will not do that. Like, ask yourself, would you rent even a room in your house, and like how will it inconvenience you? How will it inconvenience people when their car is out? And then here's another thing: car seats, y'all. All the parents know this is true. In the United States, there's a lot of regulations about child car seats, and most people will go to the fire station to have them installed. So like, how does that work then when people want to have a robotaxi, but they have children and they require car seats in the car? Or if you have a bunch of children, you do not want to be taking them car seats out, So that, golf clubs, just some people just like to leave stuff in their car. I'm not a person like that, but some people do it. So I think those are going to be the tailwinds, I guess, is the best way to headwinds.
Yeah, it's a really good, Jen, it's really good examples. And also, I was thinking just as you were saying that, like the Airbnb example is excellent, actually. Like, every year there's a huge festival in the city I live in. I could probably rent a room out for like seriously obscene amounts of money. And I don't, because I just can't be bothered with having a stranger in the place for a month, middle aged, done it, been there, done that, lived with 100 people. But yeah, I mean, one thing is the security aspect can be controlled through the app. And obviously these people are going to be filmed in the car when they get in the car and stuff. But also, do you think that they'll have
that's
an
not,
option?
I don't know. Look at the people that are renting them out on Turo and how many get trashed. I mean, trashed. And they're Teslas. They already have cameras. So I don't know if that's really, I think that's kind of
right? So at Airbnb, they have these exorbitant cleaning fees and things that they charge. That's why I don't use Airbnb, actually, because they rip a lot of people off doing that. But but you are liable to pay for any of the damage you cause, sort of thing, right? So I'm just saying, yeah, people will still do that, but they'll be less incentivized to not care if they've got those sort of obvious things of like, if you spill things in this cab, it's an extra $10, or if there's a stain or whatever. Like, I don't know how they'll do it. I'm not smart enough, but there is a model there for that. So I don't disagree with you at all. And it actually brings me back onto what I was going to say is like, do you think that the app over time will evolve? It'll be super simple. I imagine Tesla, they make UX journeys on Tesla's like technology is fucking superb. Like the UX journey is just smooth. Even I go on the website, I don't own a Tesla, I go through the buying process and I'm like, yeah, this is just, delete all parts, make it as simple and as clean as possible for the person. But maybe what they'll do is, and again, completely speculatively, what is the worst time to be picking somebody up in a taxi if you're a taxi driver? Probably midnight till 5 a.m. at the club strip, right? Like everybody's drunk, everybody's young, everybody's emotional. Nightmare, right? Take away the cab driver. Oh, I don't have to deal with that now. It's just people in a car. Yeah, but they're still drunk, likely to be under a certain age and very emotional. So chances of your car getting into all sorts of shit, very possible. Also, chances of them
That's
freaking
why
out.
Tesla have the insurance to
Pardon?
Bohemian. Is that I say right? Bohemia. That's why
Yeah.
Tesla have the insurance too, and they have a robot that I posted up here. Tesla posted
Yeah, but
that
I'm just
robot
saying,
suck.
yeah, they can clean it, but do you think they can make the app so that they can set when you rent, if you're just like a domestic person, a working person with a car you rent out, you're not running a fleet, big business stuff. Do you think they'll add something into the app that says, okay, you don't drive at these times of the night? Like I'll rent, you obviously have a period where you're happy to rent out. Don't
Yes,
go
of
to these
course.
Oh,
areas
yeah,
of the
for
city.
sure. But you know what I think the fix is? I'm going to tell you what the fix is because I mean, I've been a landlord forever. And what would lower the risk significantly, and I hope Tesla does this, so I hope somebody's listening at Tesla, is take a credit card swipe as the hold for the car and just hold people liable for whatever damage it is. Because I've seen like just make it really easy for the owner to be compensated for damage, period. There should not be, because then if people know that, then the kids that are drunk, they're going to call another car company that they're not going to get busted for puking all over the place, ripping the seats, having sex in it, like whatever, because that's a lot of that's going to happen, especially if there's not a driver in the car. Think about it. There's no driver in the car. What are you doing on the way back
Smoking
from the club?
joints, hooking up with a girl, like young people going home in the car usually keep themselves together because there's somebody else in the car before they get into whatever they're doing. They're just going to get into whatever they're doing in the car, whether that's smoking a doobie because it's legal in a lot of states, drinking a beer while they were in the car because they're not driving and nobody's telling them not to, making out, doing, having sex, whatever they're doing, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
that
a
is a
lot.
thing.
There's a lot of smoking in Ubers. Like for my rentals, like if you smoke at all in there, there's $1,000 fee and remediation. So I make it like so painful that nobody smokes in them, and I think that's what has to happen, But like this is all solvable. It's all risk mitigation, and I know I sound a little wired. Y'all, I quit smoking 26 days ago and I haven't told you guys. And so I've been a little on edge. So I'm sorry if I sound like hyped up. I'm pretty sure it's because I just put a nicotine patch on. But so I apologize for my tone.
Keep
So in
going.
the future,
I've stopped and started smoking a million times in my life. It's agony. I've been on that journey many times. So well done, man. Well done. You want to see me when I quit smoking. It's a crazed human being. So well done. Big respect.
yeah, definitely. So in the future, guys, the people's people's general reputation is going to matter to them a lot more than it does today.
Well said.
Oh, I like you saying that. Let's unpack that. I like that.
Go deep on that. I love that.
I mean, we're going to be living in a world where, everybody and everything is rated. Where the ball's already rolling in that direction with pretty good speed, but it's only going to increase.
Oh man, I couldn't agree more. It began with like the social media and the profiles of trying to look cool and fit in, but now it's actually going to be the profiles like LinkedIn affecting your job. It's the profiles of either whether somebody will come and pick you up because you puked in the last car. It's like that kind of thing. Social contracts everywhere. Horrible, but true.
It'll also be a lot of good. There's going to be a lot of good because of this. Just going to be a safer world.
No, it is.
Totally. Well, and think about it. If people have profiles on the Tesla app, like we'll fast forward. Y'all want to fast forward 10 years? Let's do it, So let's say Tesla does risk mitigation like I would, right? And so you can get maybe a discount on your cyber cab if you have a higher rating, like as a customer. Every time you rent a cyber cab, you're rated on how you leave it and how everything went, right? And then you can move up in the ranks and you can pay less per mile, versus somebody who's like poorly rated who can end up getting banned, So that's one thing that Uber doesn't do at all. Or not Uber, sorry, Turo. I keep conflating the two. So I've talked to a lot of Turo people, and like I've heard their pain points, and I feel like if we can risk mitigation is totally available to Tesla. It's just like if they do it from the onset so that it's not like, oh, these annoying changes. Like people hate like updates that are restrictive. So start restrictive is my thought. And like, I think that, you know, a social score for when you rent cars sounds great, because if you're a great car renter, you know, like, yeah, you should pay less because the risk is lower.
Yeah, there'll be more incentives there. And I love what you said earlier about making it a safer world, because let's be honest, like, things got pretty well the last few years, and we've had summer of love in a few cities in Britain where it's like, let's just all stand back and see what happens. Nothing good fucking happens. Like, there needs to be some sort of, you know, incentive structure that encourages people to behave, and some sort of enforcement of people who don't. You know, that's another topic as well, right? But like, if everything gets too free, it gets too free, you know. But in that sense, yeah, I completely agree. And I think as this thing ramps, they'll be able to communicate that in a progressive way that isn't completely overwhelming. It's an intricate thing. It's not going to happen city by city, you know. Like, I got taught about Uber, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but like, somebody, I'd never used it, and I'd been living overseas a lot. Came back to UK with an Uber now. How's it work? Right. Well, you know, it's really easy. First off, but
Bohemian,
also like you get a score, right?
Bohemian.
Yeah.
I have the time is coming up. I have a question for Pejjy. Is that all right?
Yeah. Go.
Yeah, Pejjy. Sorry, we went all around the world. Um, I was trying to ask you, what do you think about Elon's signal with a robot and a car that drive itself? Do you think this time, do you believe him, or you think he's crying wolf self-driving? Oh, sorry, I mute my mind. Sorry. Hey, the signal, I was setting the stage about Elon, like being a shareholder. He's a pure signal. He's not noise. He's not sending you just noise. This time he's up there. He's like, oh, people call me kid who cry wolf, but this time it's a wolf self-driving wolf. What do you think? And how do you see it? How do you see it value in a Tesla stock?
reality.
He did giving them a bunch of homework, like go drive it. If you have a question, go drive it, right? And he said the value of it is what I catch is gonna be ridiculously good. So yeah, if Pejjy is right, if you're in Tesla, there's a reason to be in it. Is full self driving. I'm using it every day. I have V12. It is good. It is good. I live in a hill too, so it's going a mountain is no problem. It still have a mist that is like if it's raining like this week, my camera I need to go out and clean it, manually clean it. But other than that, if it can clean itself, I think it will work. And let's see what my last question to you. 2026, 2027. How do you see it other than nailing the milestone? What is gonna make it not happen?
There's a really Pejjy, there's a really big problem with privacy laws in some of the countries. I think that's part of it, at least from what I've heard. The
The camera
recording,
inside.
yeah, the camera inside recording.
Probably the
Europe
camera
has
inside, too.
very serious privacy laws. So, and they're not changing their law. So I don't know if we're going to make a Tesla without an interior camera, which, why do we need the interior camera? Well, it's to watch people's eyes, make sure they were watching the road. So once you don't need to watch the road anymore, why do you need an interior camera, for your personal vehicle?
Europe's going to get left behind, and their quality of life is going to continue to decline as the West, or at least the United States, continues to go up. And when the quality of life diverges enough, people are going to be pissed and things are going to change. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen eventually.
As somebody who lives in Europe, that's 100% correct. It's we're going to have a choice. We become a welfare state, a museum state, or we catch up with the times. I completely agree, and that privacy law will have to go away. It will have to go away because it will collapse economies. But the privacy laws are ridiculously strict. But also, I'd say this: it's going to get to the point where people are like, the world is a lot safer when people just know that they can't pull as many wacky shit because there's probably a camera somewhere that will record them. And in the event of a crime, they can be used. And it's like, you know what? For that reason alone, not that I want to be tracked and monitored. That's not fun. But you know, it's a payoff, right? It's like you can easily have a data protection law that's like you're not allowed to just randomly film people and whatever. But if a crime is committed and there's a camera available, that camera can be used as evidence. So there's so many, like on a social, like on a crime level, on a social economic level, everything level, they've just got to change. We just need the right people in there to change it because, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I agree, but you got to prove that first. We're going to have to prove it in the United States for probably 2 years. So I would say like FSD is not going to Europe until we can remove the interior camera. We can't remove the interior camera until we have unsupervised FSD. So in my personal opinion, because I lived in Germany for 3 years, guys, this is not unfounded, is that we will see it in Europe and in more restrictive markets probably a year, 2, maybe 3 years after we have unsupervised FSD in the United States, and we have the data to prove it.
Yeah. I lived in Germany too. They're the worst for that. The bureaucracy in Germany is insane. They've made almost everything illegal, other than coming there illegally. That's very legal. But yeah,
Thank
I
you so
completely agree
much,
with it.
everybody, today. We went all around the world and a bunch of subject, which is awesome, great information. Time is up. It's very late in Kuwait. Pejjy need to go to sleep so he can be productive tomorrow. My kid is crying. This is a very fun Saturday. Um, don't take us so serious. We're not financial advisor. Your money, you go manage it yourself. Study stock is what we do together here, and just have fun as a friend. Don't go buy a bunch of stock if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, your money, learn a little bit and then do something good with it. All right. I love you all. Thank you, and see you next Saturday. Yes, thank you, Pejjy. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.